So the next one is retention, and it's really important to keep that level of retention very high. The biggest problem that most growth hackers have at some point is not so much the acquisition and activation. People who are very good at the activation side, particularly on the motivation, are very good. But retention is difficult because at this point you're trying to constantly reduce churn, and this can be like one of the silent killers of growth of any company. And when we're talking about churn, we don't just necessarily mean people who physically leave you or physically unsubscribe or cancel. We're also looking at people who stop using your service or your product, whatever it is, and are dormant. Okay, so they're essentially signed up. They may be paying, but they're not actively engaged. And the whole time we're trying to keep them engaged. And as like Nia Eyal from who wrote Hooked will describe, they aren't hooked. There's nothing sticky about what you're doing. Famously, Facebook is probably one of the best examples that everyone uses and quotes, and it's definitely one I'd recommend. Their executive team originally, I think it was fairly near the beginning, set out a very, very high aspirational goal of 200 million users in 12 months, which would make any growth hacker or just about anyone bulk at that kind of figure. So what they had to do was get very, very creative, and they really went into the depths and the details of their analytics as they started to discover where that churn rate actually hit. And famously now they found that it's they needed to have 7 friends within 10 days. And so all of their marketing, all of their user experience at that point was geared towards, is now geared towards, how can we accelerate that one person coming in, signing up, and getting at least 7 friends in that 10 days. And they're constantly trying to reduce that 10 days and even the number, so that it's that sticky, that much of a hook, that people don't want to leave for any reason. Excuse me. So, for example, if you were thinking about it in your business or whatever service that you have, it may be a case of thinking of this FOMO, fear of missing out, which is always a very, very clever one of being left behind and missing out on being in the curve with everybody else. Social media companies use this very, very well, and I've seen it recently started creeping more and more into emails, and with companies who have lapsed customers who aren't actually engaged as much anymore, and there'll be communications that come out to you that then say, oh, we see you haven't been engaged, you should see what X, Y, and Z is happening, this is really cool, will really benefit you. And so it's a way of almost bringing people back into your fold and back into what you do, and from there things really start to take off. One of their main focus is on this term of reducing friction. Friction specifically is, how can you make it as easy for people to stay involved with your service, with your business, whatever it is. So you want it to be easy, simple, and minimize what they have to do. Tinder obviously have brilliantly done this, which was an evolution of hot or not, where it's just now swiping with a thumb left or right. The reason why that's clever is that it's almost has no difficulty to the user experience, and it's very, very easy to move through. And this has now been taken up by LinkedIn on their app, where you can just quickly swipe left or right, and that will actually make a difference on your user experience and how you actually move through the mobile app itself. So literally, how can you keep improving that experience? And it's something to consider for when you're looking at whatever retention strategy is.